Hey guys, I'm back with another video. This is gonna be the 1 month, what am I gonna call it? The 1 month kind of summary. I'll call it summary of me carrying this Hogue EX-01 4-inch aluminum handle knife. Now, as I said, it's 4 inches. If you guys remember around Thanksgiving, I put up a video of me using this knife to carve some wood. I smashed through a few knots in some wood. I batoned with it. I came back and the knife already had a little bit of side-to-side play from the factory. It got worse, a little bit worse, once I went out and did all that beating with it. And I came back and I did another video where I fixed that. What I found in that video was that I couldn't adjust this side of the pivot. I don't know if it's Loctited in. I don't know if it's, if it has a D-shaped pivot on one side, I'm not sure. So what I had to do is I had to take the clip off, which yes, is still in tip down carry. This is how it comes from the factory. I had to take this clip off and I had to adjust the pivot from this side, which worked like a charm. There's no play, even with me using this knife over the past, let's see if that was Thanksgiving, roughly a month after that. There has not been any more play. The knife itself, if you remember that video where I adjusted it, it was pretty tight. It's loosened up. It does not drop shut, but it has loosened up a decent amount as far as the action. Broken in, I guess, is a better term. It's only 154 cm steel, as you can see on the blade here. However, this steel, and that's why I have this here, along with this Aegis EDCI solution, love that stuff. I'm gonna wipe this edge off and show you guys if I can. I haven't done anything to this edge at all. I used it out in the woods to beat on some wood, carve some wood, cut some wood, and since I've had it back, I did stab into and pry open a beer bottle, and I did cut that beer bottle cap like this. So I will kind of give you guys a look at the blade itself. You can see there the finish is still pretty much the same. Still looks like there's some glue down there, but I'll give you guys a look down the bevel itself. And you can see, or I hope you can see, I don't see any chips or rolls or nicks or dents or any reflected light. It looks like, okay, that's just the bevel. That is the one thing, and I mentioned this in my first video, this bevel, and I don't remember, oh man, BJ Hill, which if you haven't checked him out, check him out. He talked about Hogue knives in his video, and he said the specific grit they finish on for these knives, or for their knives, and I just don't remember. But it's a little bit fine for my liking, but that's where a lot of that reflection you're seeing is coming from. You can kind of see there, it's a pretty high finish. Not necessarily my first choice for a final edge on a knife. However, it's something that's easily fixed. The knife has cut well. It's roughly 20 thousandths behind the edge, so it falls in line with pretty much every other knife, pretty much the majority of other mass-produced folding knives as far as thickness behind the edge. The construction's top-notch, even with all of the things I've done to it. You can see the centering is spot on. All of the seams line up perfectly. There aren't any major issues to complain about. The thumb studs, that's something else I wanted to touch on, and then I'm going to come back to something else. A lot of times, CRK takes a hit for their thumb studs, and I think these are might be too large to fit on the CRK knife, but they have what they call those little nipples. This is actually a point instead of a flat spot. These are very similar to those CRKs, but they're larger and they have a flat spot on top instead of that quote unquote nipple. And it makes a huge difference. Even if you're using that, it doesn't dig into your finger. If you can flick it, it's big enough. It's just really a pretty good solution for this style of knife. Now, the one thing that I have noticed with this knife, or two things actually, both of them relate to this release button right here, this button lock right here. I've noticed that it does not stick up a lot above the frame, so I really have to make sure that I'm kind of almost putting my fingernail on there and pushing in to totally disengage it, because sometimes what'll happen if I just use the pad of my thumb kind of like this, it won't disengage the lock all the way, and then I'll find myself kind of fiddling with it. It has gotten better as I've used the knife, but I generally just use my thumbnail to make sure I'm fully depressing that button. And the other thing is, I don't know if you can hear it, but let's see. It sticks a little bit. Now, I don't know if that sticking is from my use, but it's always stuck a little bit, and it stuck a little bit more after I got it back from beating on it a little bit. You can see there, that's what I was looking for, where it's making contact with that blade tang. Now, it's not a deal breaker. It doesn't make me not want to use the knife. It doesn't hurt your thumb, kind of like a sticky frame lock or something like that. But it's definitely something that's noticeable in use. It never requires two fingers or any weird position to hold the knife in to disengage that lock, even if it is a little bit sticky. So it works out pretty well, but something worth mentioning. Trying to think if there's anything else that I would mention about this knife after 1 month. This is, and it's only been roughly a month, but this knife here, it was my surprise purchase of 2019. This knife here, I like way more than I would have thought I would have liked. And honestly, if I'm carrying it in my pocket beside a Strider, 9 times out of 10, I don't even think about the Strider, and I pick this knife up. I think this knife was $180. I do think it was on sale, but it's under $200 in general. I think this is a lot of knife from a great company, and it's really hard to beat. It's competing with things. If you get the aluminum handled 4-inch version, it's competing with things like the Microtech SOCOM, which also is an aluminum handled 4-inch knife, but it is a sub frame lock, and it does have variations of M390 usually. Now, with that being said, we found that they usually run their M390 or the variants 204P, 20CV, those things right around that 58, which again is going to give you performance much closer to like an S30V than the increased edge retention you would see from that steel if its full potential was released, which would be over 60. So take that for what it's worth. The SOCOM is also a $250 knife. I should have looked that up before I started this, if I'm not mistaken. So you're spending more money. Both knives are made in the United States. Both knives are backed by good companies. Both companies have good warranties. Both companies have good public relations people. So the companies are very, very comparable. The knives are also very comparable, but this is $180. I think it's like $190, $195 when it's not on sale. Or maybe it's $180, but I got this for $160 with the sale. Anyway, this is under $200 and the SOCOM is $250. So you're saving roughly $50 there. And what I will tell you is this only 154 cm, they take their time and they process this steel accordingly. Not only do they make sure that the heat treatment protocol is in line, but they also, as I mentioned, this very fine edge here, they also make sure that these knives are finished, as far as the edge is concerned, by hand. So that is another level to the layer to the quality that they add to these knives. So with all that being said, I've had a month of use on this knife, roughly 3-4 days in the woods, beating on wood, batoning wood, etc., etc. Like I said, you guys can look back. I did another video on that. Should have a Hogue playlist. This will also be in the Hogue playlist. And since I've been home, it's just been doing, you know, usual stuff, breaking down boxes, cutting plastic, cutting paper, etc., etc. And this is the type of edge it still has. So you can see it's not the absolute sharpest. It could use a little bit of work, but it's not the dullest, especially for the type of work that I've been doing. I'm pleased with it. Like I said, I'll do another follow-up video maybe 6 months in or so. I'm not gonna beat you guys over the head with a video every couple of weeks, but this is my 1 month kind of summary of my carry of the Hogue EX-01 4-inch aluminum handled knife. All right, I'm cutting in to interrupt the ending. Noticed I used this knife after I shot the video, and I noticed it was cutting cardboard pretty well. So I wanted to come back, hit it on the strop. This is 1 micron. There we go. 1 micron Ken Schwartz CBN spray. As one of the guys put it on my Instagram post, the original spray was one of the very early sprays. So usually I would pull out some phone book paper, but I don't have any phone book paper, and I don't think I cut phone book paper last time. So let's see exactly what this does right now. This is after a month of use. Like I said, a weekend in the mountains, 4-day weekend in the mountains, and then just the rest of that month, well, a little over a month, using it for everyday stuff. So this is what it can do on 20 weight regular printer paper. So it still cuts, but it's not anything to write home about. Uh-oh. And now it's not even doing that. So it's very iffy. So I have that. I just reapplied some of that spray on here. I'm just gonna hit it on this strop a few times and see what we can bring back. So if you're not familiar with stropping, you just kind of want to follow. I follow the angle that the knife was sharpened at. The way I feel that is the knife feels a little bit smoother when you're actually hitting that bevel. I know some people say that you don't follow exactly the same angle. You want to go a little bit more shallow to avoid rounding the edge off. I haven't ever run into any issues with that. The other thing you want to do is you kind of want to angle that butt of that knife up a little bit at the tip and then come down, because especially with a factory sharpened knife or a hand sharpened knife, if you try to follow the profile of this edge, you're going to have a steeper angle towards the tip than you do down here, because there's more meat, more stock at the tip. So this is the side that I'm still kind of trying to work on here with my freehanding, but I do a good enough job with the stropping. And you'll have to forgive my dog again. He only wants to drink water when I'm in here filming a video, and I'm not gonna stop. So I don't count either. I just kind of strop, and usually I wouldn't necessarily have gone quite so many on that one side before I swapped over. I might do it 2 or 3 times, but I was in the middle of talking and I really wasn't paying attention. And like I said, you can really kind of just feel that edge glide over the strop. There we go. Kind of had a little trouble finding the edge angle there. If anything, I would undershoot rather than overshoot, because if you overshoot, you definitely are going to round that edge off. So let's see. I'm using very light pressure, by the way. Let's see exactly what we have now. Oh, that's not much better. Let's see. There are a few catches in here. So it's cutting, but it's not. It's better, but it's not exactly where we need it to be. I would say it's maybe passable. I'm gonna hit this on the strop a little bit more off the camera so I can get the angle down a little bit better and I'm not reaching around the tripod, and I'm gonna see what it can do. Hold on. Well, that didn't get me too far. It is notably better, but it's not the edge that I would want to be carrying around. And let me clarify this, because I know in the last clip I said passable. By passable, I mean if I'm at the end of my day and I just need to hit this really quickly on a strop or something like that, it would get me through, you know, the last little bit of the day or whatever I needed to do. No, I'm not saying this is the edge that I would say is great or what or anything like that. This would be, it would be enough to get me by. So anyway, I'm gonna move on. I've got a flex strap here, and I know as always the whole price disclaimer, I use a leather belt, whatever, piece of cardboard. Absolutely, you can do all that. I prefer to use this flex leather strap made in the United States. It's just got regular old Bark River compound. I don't believe Flex makes this strap anymore. It's a quadratic. It's got black on this side. Let's see if I can get that in focus. Black on this side, white here, green, and then it's naked on that side. So I'm gonna use some black. Let's see what we can do. I don't know if this is gonna make any more of a difference, but we've got it. It's not gonna hurt. Let's just see what we can do. So again, you're just kind of trying to find that angle, and again you're going to kind of tilt that butt of the knife up in the air when you're at the tip, and then lay it down and follow that edge. I follow exactly, as closely as I can, exactly the angle of the bevel itself. And like I said, I know that that's controversial. Some people say you don't need to follow, you shouldn't follow the edge because you'll round it off. You know, whatever, do whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm just telling you how I'm doing it. Again, I'm not going to do any specific number of passes. I'm going to use I would say this is probably medium pressure. I'm not, it's a little bit more than just the weight of my hand and the knife blade, but I'm not smashing the knife down into the leather. I have done it more firmly in the past. You know, your mileage may vary. So let's see what this black does. And I don't think there's anything on here to catch it up. And I'll show you guys, there's not any damage to the edge that's really notable. All that polishing, it already was polished, and with me hitting it on the strap, that's just that edge shining. There's no shining on the actual apex of the edge that I can see. But let's see what that black compound did to it. And you can see there, I don't know what that was, maybe a minute or so. Ooh. So that looks like it's actually worse. So it does feel like there are a few catches, and it feels like it's cutting about the same. So I think it's just time for it to go on to the sharpener and get sharpened. But there you go, guys. That is 1 month with the knife. Maybe if I hadn't waited so long, I could have brought it back a little bit more. It'll do enough to get me through a day or two. But again, if I was going to waste the time to sharpen a knife up, this wouldn't be the end result that I would want. So now let's go back to the ending.